curious, like from my corporate experience when it comes to open source, not everybody is really open to hear about it. Even, do you find resistance within your work as well when you go in and share about open source, educate about open source, trying to encourage people to have a better understanding of the communities, the ecosystem, how it all works?
I don't find resistance to that education. I find a lot of interest and eagerness to learn. Sometimes a surprising lack of awareness. I found that in the private sector as well, right? Folks that have only worked inside a company, even if that company used open source, they may never have contributed. They may not understand the culture of open source. What I find a lot in talking to folks in government is the same thing. People know their lane, and this is a new space to them. It's a new community, a new way of doing things. I mean, for some of us, it's not new, but that's the act of education we all have to do all the time.
I found recently, I've started to draw a corollary between what I found in those early 2000s when you would go to an organization and say, how are you managing open source in your company? And they'd invariably say, we don't have any. And as invariably, there would be some junior manager someplace and, raise his hand and say, what about that email server and that DNS server and blah, 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 right? They would just go on. And then there would be panic from the senior managers because this was all there. I think Log4j shined a very strong light, as does the yearly synopsis reports that always equate any given commercial product is using 85+% lines of code that is open source. That open source is the software supply chain, and I sense similarly in companies that there's a knee-jerk reaction going, good grief, this is so insecure. This isn't made in any of the structured form that I thought my software was being built in from within my company. Do we have to use this? Can we just get rid of this? And when they take a close look at it, the answer is no, because so much of what is going on, from the foundational platforms, again, as you said, you were part of OpenStack, you were part of Kubernetes. The next thing was probably going to be WebAssembly, right? And as we look at these fundamental platforms that everybody relies upon, it's not like you can chuck it and build your software without it, unless you want to take a serious step backwards. Do you find that, is there shock and awe in the government as you're talking to various regulators and other groups that it's to recognize that, oh my goodness, all of our commercial software is actually based on this stuff?
I think events of the last 3-4 years, and just going back to Heartbleed, even the last 10 years, have been wake-up calls for multiple governments who are still coming to wrestle with this reality that many people see a commercial provider of a digital good, whether it's software or your phone or your car or an insulin pump. And they think there's a company. I can trust that company. And they should think of it that way. But the company has responsibility for the software they're including in the product they're putting out. And not every company has been as diligent in reviewing, securing the software that they're using. They should involve more secure by design practices in how they build those digital goods and how they incorporate open source software in it, because it is critical. It is an indispensable part of the modern digital supply chain, as you said.
I find that part of that process and diligence and so forth, it ties directly to going back and participating in and collaborating with an upstream community. And I often find that that's the next learning step that I end up having to work through with various organizations and various layers of management within that.